Hello there and welcome to the Bicycle Diaries and welcome to week 17 of my Mallorca training plan. Although to be honest, it's been so long since I've mentioned it, I've almost forgotten that was what I was training for. So with just under 5 months left to go before James and I fly down to Mallorca, hopefully the trip will still be going ahead. Obviously, world events may change that, particularly as we've just gone into another period of lockdown here in the UK, and there's even been mention of quarantining incoming visitors to the UK who arrive by air. So that obviously will have an impact. But hopefully things will all go to plan, we will all be allowed to travel a bit later on, and the Mallorca trip will happen. A bit closer to home, I seem to be having quite a wheel apocalypse at the moment. If you're a regular viewer of this vlog, you'll know that a couple of weeks ago I broke a spoke on the rear wheel of my Cannondale, and then when I went to ride my Isaac, which had been recently serviced, the gears wouldn't work. So I took both back to the shop that serviced the Isaac and asked them to have a look at the gears. After all, that is what I paid for. And last week I went and collected it all. Now the good news was that the Cannondale wheel was repaired nicely. But the bad news was that the reason the gears weren't working on the Isaac was due to a broken free hub on the rear wheel. So I think that makes the second broken free hub I've had in a couple of weeks, not to mention a broken hub and then cracked rims as well on the Trek. So I've not had too much luck with wheels over the last few weeks. But that said, all the wheels are now sorted, so let's get on with this week's ride. To today's ride, and you join me on my first ride of this week, and what an absolutely fantastic day to go cycling. It's Wednesday, the sun's shining, it's about 20 degrees Celsius and it's absolutely fantastic. Mind you, I can feel the wind, it's pretty strong, but I'm riding into it, so at least that's going to be a tailwind on the way home. My ride today is going down to Bognor, and if I do it successfully, it will be my longest ride of the year. Now I did it last year and I started to flag on the last few kilometres, so I'm just going to take it nice and easy today and hopefully I'll get round. Going to be difficult about today's ride is the distance. I created a route with the Hammerhead dashboard, and according to that it's going to be about 70 kilometres. Now we're heading towards Chichester at the moment, and up till then I'll know the roads pretty well, but once I get to the other side of Chichester, that's kind of where my comfort zone ends, and I'll be relying on the navigation on the Karoo. Last time I rode it, I created a route using my Garmin, and it worked more or less, but it kind of got a bit confused around Chichester, and I ended up going on a very busy road, and then I think I even went on my worst road in the entire world, the Bursted Bypass. I think the route I created today for the Karoo will avoid all of that. looks like the Karoo's taking me through some industrial estate, when normally I'd take the road to my left, which is like the main road into Chichester from Portsmouth. And obviously it took me around that roundabout, which would not have been good under normal circumstances. Under lockdown it's considerably quieter, but it was still fairly busy. Always a little bit wary about riding over railway lines since coming off a few years ago and injuring my leg. Rather unsuccessful. It seems like the Karoo has made a similar mistake that the Garmin made last time, only worse. It was doubling me back on roads that I've already ridden along. It took me on the busy A27, and now we're coming back into Chichester again. Yeah, I just follow it and see what happens. Up. I'm now on the main Chichester to Bognor Road, the one road that I really did not want to go on. Basically, I have decided to abandon the navigation on the Karoo because although I don't know this area very well, I know it well enough to know that the Karoo is trying to send me back to Chichester, which is what I don't want to do. I'm almost in Bognor, so I'm just going to carry on following the normal road signs, and once I get there, have a bit of a rest and then head on home. Well, that's me. I finally reached Bognor after a lot of faffing about with the navigation, and I'm not sure whether that was the fault of the Karoo or just plain user error. Now that I'm down here, I must say that it's absolutely amazing. The colour of the water is just fantastic, and I read recently that that's all again down due to lack of pollution. It's taken me 35 kilometres to get down here, which was kind of what I thought it would be. I'm feeling pretty good, although all the way down that headwind was just roaring away in my ears. Now the good news is that that's going to mean a nice little tailwind for the trip home. I'm also going to take this opportunity to reset the navigation on the Karoo, so hopefully it will give me the correct route home as well. reasons why I wanted to do a longer ride today was because I should have ridden the Isle of Wight randonnée on Monday. Now that's 110 kilometres round, and to be quite frank, I think I would have struggled had I done it on Sunday. But today I wanted to just see how I felt after 70 kilometres, and if I can feel okay after 70, then 100 shouldn't be that much more difficult. Difference between this route and the Isle of Wight, apart of course from the 40 kilometres distance, is the climbing. I think this route's going to be fairly flat, so I'll be lucky if I do about 300 metres of climbing over the whole of the 70 kilometres, and compare that to the Isle of Wight, which is about 1500 metres. So yeah, it's not really like for like, but it's a start. 50 kilometres done now, still feeling pretty good, and I'm on roads that I know fairly well, so shouldn't be long before I'm home. Because today's ride is just that little bit further, I am taking a drink with me. I've got some of the Elivar energy drink. Haven't really tried it because I haven't had much opportunity, but it seems to be okay. It's got a strawberry flavour to it, although it does taste a little bit milky, which takes a bit of getting used to. But I'll also have some recovery product when I get back tonight as well. There we go, not quite 70 kilometres, it'll be 68 by the time I get back, but still a fairly respectable ride. It's actually the longest ride of the year so far. Now I don't feel too bad actually, nowhere near as bad as I did the last time I rode down to Bognor and back. I can start to feel it in my legs a bit, but yeah, I do feel a fair bit stronger than I have of late, so yeah, it's all good. I did go for a couple of other rides after this one, bringing my weekly total to 157 kilometres ridden, 6.5 hours of seat time, and 775 metres climbed. So that brings my total for the year so far to 1,776 kilometres ridden, 77 hours and 45 minutes of seat time, and 11,175 metres climbed. And if we go over to Strava, we can see that on Wednesday my fitness score was 54, Thursday it was 53, Friday it went back up to 54, and then on Saturday it climbed to 55. I have to say that I'm pretty pleased with those numbers, particularly when I also think about how good and how strong I feel on the bike at the moment. On Saturday I rode down to Southsea, and on the way there it was a block headwind, and despite that I was still doing a very respectable speed. And then obviously when I turned for home I had a tailwind and I was absolutely flying along doing 35-40 kilometers an hour on the flat. And if you have a look at my Strava for that day, you can see that I did indeed get quite a few PRs on that particular route. So there's proof that I am actually getting a bit stronger on the bike. The other big news for this week is that a couple of days ago Hammerhead updated the firmware for their Karoo, so it now has the long-awaited Strava Live Segments feature. Now I've been out and tested it, and I have to say I've got kind of mixed feelings about it. On the one hand, yes, the live segments do work, but on the other hand it's still sort of facing a few teething issues. So I'm happy that it's working, but I'm looking forward to the time when they've updated the firmware even more so that the user interface is a lot better. Thankfully the weather isn't looking too bad next week, so I plan on continuing with the longer rides mixed in with the shorter, harder rides. Now obviously I'm really pleased that I went out and did my longest ride of the year so far at 70 kilometers. So next week I hope to build on that with another 70 kilometer ride. Plus, if I'm feeling particularly good, I may even throw another one in there as well. And finally, I'd just like to say a massive thank you to all of the new Patreons that are very kindly supporting the channel. I really appreciate it, and it's going to be a tremendous help during these strange days that we're living through. If you'd like to join them, I'll leave the details to my Patreon page in the description below. Thanks for watching.